In all honesty, the feedback's been pretty positive, thankfully, because I haven't put my foot in my mouth too much. But in all honesty, I think anybody that takes the time to go onto a podcast and talk about what they deem to be interesting, I think should be rewarded because everybody there's so much indifference in the world today. It's nice to see
Mm,
people like you and I take a vested interest, whether it's in lighting,
yeah.
regardless of what the podcast or topic is about. It's
Mm.
nice to see people put interest in things, you know what I mean, and actually take the time to discuss things and try to enlighten people to different things. And I think that should be, I think I don't want to, toot our horns, but I think guys like you and I and other people that do podcasts, I think they're modern day heroes. I said it. They're modern day heroes.
Let's Get This Podcast Started is a production of Get a Grip Studios. Go to getagripstudios.com. Welcome back to Let's Get This Podcast Started Already, or How to Start a Podcast, whatever I'm going to call it or whatever it's going to be. This is episode number 2. The first one was Webster Marsh of Lighting Controls Podcast. And I'm here today with my good friend and colleague, Jason Schembri from OZZ Electric and the Contractor and Distributor Show. Hey, Jason.
Glad to be a part, Michael. Glad to be a part.
So I don't know if it was about a year ago or whatever, the editor of what was then Light Ted Mag, now Ted Mag, came to me and said, "You know what? We want to have more interactions on the platform between distributors and contractors." So I said, "Geez, who's the loudmouthest contractor I know out there?"
Ding, 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 ding.
So I
Yeah,
called
I'm
you
a
up.
winner.
I called you up and I hooked you up with Chad Palmer from Energy Efficient Systems in the States. You couldn't get, like, within North America, you couldn't get two white guys that were more different, actually, probably, than you two
He's the yin
guys.
to my yang.
Exactly. And you came on and you started the Contractor Distributor Show. What has it been like from the beginning to now? What's changed? Has anything changed?
Well, you know what? It's like with anything in life. At first, you're nervous if you're not used to something, but over time, the more you do something, the easier it gets, and the less nervous you are, right? And when it comes to, oh, what am I going to talk about? Once you converse with somebody, things flow, right? And it's not hard to get talking to Chad. He's a smart guy, a good guy, and easy to talk to, so that helps too. But realistically, it's just about throwing out your ideas, talking, and just being uninhibited with what you say and what you believe. That's really the gist of it.
Yeah, the other thing too is, though, that I think I would add to that is that it's all grounded in what you know the most about anyway. Like, you're talking about electrical work, you work for an electrical contractor. You know a ton about lighting. It's a little bit of a lighting focus there. You go into other topics, but this is your subject matter expertise.
That sure helps. I'll tell you that much. It's in all honesty, if you're talking about something 8 to 9 hours a day, what's another half an hour?
Hmm. And on top of that, when you're talking about it, from your perspective that you're not going to say something that's disrespectful or shows a lack of knowledge. You're talking about electrical contracting. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people, that's what they're worried about. You don't have to talk about everything else. You can crack a joke, you can have a good time, but you want to stay around your subject matter expertise. And that's what I've seen you and Chad really do well over the last year.
Well, yeah, that's the whole premise is people are tuning in to learn about a particular topic. You don't want to venture off of that topic because what's the point then? They come here for a little bit of advice on lighting and contractors and distributors' viewpoints on some of the hot topics with regards to lighting. So you're going to stick to that. You're right. Once in a while, you'll venture off a bit, but it doesn't take long to get back to the main focus, which is the lighting side of things.
Yeah, and I think that's where, people that are thinking of starting a podcast, you don't even want to go with Joe Rogan or something like that, where you're talking to everyone about everything. That's really difficult. And he looks like an idiot a lot, actually. If you listen to his show, when he goes off sometimes, I think, what the hell is this guy talking about? You know what
But
I'm
it helps
saying?
if you just don't. Yeah, it helps if you don't care, right? So that's why he gets away with it. He's okay with looking like a dummy, right? And it's hard to know everything about everything. It's impossible, right? But if you can just be, okay about making fun of yourself and not looking like the most intelligent guy on earth all the time, then you have no real worries about what you're going to talk about, because there's no repercussions to you looking like a dummy, because you just don't care. So I think that's the approach he takes.
Yeah, and but for us, like if when I stay in the lighting world and I venture a lot off a little bit into the
Mhm.
restoring darkness world. But when lighting controls, when people were asking us about lighting controls, I hate lighting controls, man. I said I can't do a podcast about lighting controls. I hate these lighting control systems. We need to get some guys that want to talk about lighting controls because I hate it.
I'm with you on that one. In all honesty, that is, that's something we hand off. I know I'm speaking for myself. I'm pretty sure you're the same way, where once that topic comes up, you bring somebody else into the mix that keeps their finger on the pulse of controls a lot more than you do. So that's definitely one of those topics where if you're in the control side of things, that's your forte, and we appreciate those guys, and we hand off to those guys, because in all honesty, if it's up to me, then we're all in trouble when it comes to controls.
Yeah, and I think and not yeah, that point of the point about it from the distributor to the contractor, which is actually what's happening right now when we're talking. I'm a distributor, you're a contractor, but I
Indeed.
mean the it's it, they I don't think the controls guys or the people that are making the incentive programs or these types, I don't think they really understand what it's like to um for a distributor or a contractor to look at an incentive like you get 25 cents per square foot if you install an advanced lighting control system. What does that mean? You know what I mean? I don't know what that means. And it's like you're who how do I calculate this? A whole new form. It's a really completely different industry, Jason.
It really is, and you have to have the expertise. It's not something you can kind of trudge through and figure out as you go. It's definitely something that's going to be. You're going to have to involve somebody that's, whether it's a designer, whether anybody that's really versed in that topic. You're going to need them involved, because you're right. Once you start figuring in square footage and you put a dollar value to that, you lose a lot of people, right? So, like you said, you gotta you have to tread lightly when you get to that point.
Mm.
Boneheads like me, we can get away with the whole dollars per fixture, because that's basic math, and basic math is my forte. So,
Even the ones I have to get back to about starting podcasts in that in a second, but I will.
mhm,
But we obviously have a lot in common on this lighting thing. With the in even the engineered where you're calculating the kilowatts, that's actually pretty easy
mhm.
too. You know what I
Oh, it
mean? You got
is.
this many of this fixture, you got this many of that fixture. This one's 100 watts each, this one's 200 watts each. You get the difference times $400. You get that difference times $1,000. That's easy to do too.
It's
But
easy for you and I, because we've been doing it since the turn of the century, right? So, let's not forget that. We could
yeah,
do that with our eyes closed, but a lot of people, it's still difficult for them, right? Because they have to figure out their hours of operation. It's not always, 87, 60. Sometimes you have different hours of operation. There are some variables there, right? So it can be tricky, but for guys like you and I that have been doing it since the dawn of time, it's not so hard, right? And I'm sure on the lighting control side, the guys that deal with that, it's easy for them. Meanwhile, you and I
100%.
are looking at it like it's Greek. So, you know it's specific to whatever somebody knows, and for us, for you and I, we know the kilowatt hour and kilowatts for most fixtures like the back of our hand, so it's not too
Yeah,
big
it's
of a
pretty
deal.
easy estimate. I can do
Hmm.
hand ones in the field. Like I
Yeah,
have an
we
order
do
pad.
too.
I can do
We're
hand.
such nerds. i don't
I
i don't
know.
think we should be advertising this. Hey, we're just you know
I
good
can pull out a
lord,
pad right there,
our
just write it up.
coolness factors is crashing. Good lord.
Lighting, a bunch of lighting dorks. The
Turn your plans into a pilot. Visit getagripstudios.com or call 416 492 5835 for more information.
what have you learned? Have you had anyone come up to you and say, "Hey, I saw your show"? Have you had anyone email you, send you an email with a clip of the show, and say, "What the heck are you doing, boy?"
Well, in all honesty, I'm an attention whore. So for me, I make sure everybody knows I do podcasts, right? So I'm one of those guys. I'll put it on LinkedIn immediately and say, "Look who's fancy, and look what I do." So,
Oh
and
man,
in all honesty, the feedback's been pretty positive, thankfully, because I haven't put my foot in my mouth too much. But in all honesty, I think anybody that takes the time to go onto a podcast and talk about what they deem to be interesting, I think should be rewarded, because everybody, there's so much indifference in the world today. It's nice to see
Mm,
people like you and I take a vested interest, whether it's in lighting,
yeah.
regardless of what the podcast or topic is about. It's
Mm.
nice to see people put interest in things, you know what I mean, and actually take the time to discuss things and try to enlighten people to different things. And I think that should be, I think, I don't want to, toot our horns, but I think guys like you and I, and other people that do podcasts, I think they're modern day heroes. I said it, they're modern day heroes, because
Yeah,
they're
I wouldn't
actually,
go that far.
okay, maybe not that far. Maybe I've gone a bit too far. I just want to be a hero.
I had
But
my
honestly,
when my son was little, he said to me, I want to be a police officer. I said, why do you want to be a police officer, son? He said, because dad, they're heroes. And I said, yeah. I said, yeah,
that's pretty true. That's a good
but
call.
but you know what? Being a hero means you got to do a lot of hard stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And
Oh, I know.
being, like you hear cops and like I don't know about the firefighters. Those guys don't work that much actually. You know what I'm saying?
I don't
The
know if you've
the
got a family at home waiting for you, and you're going into a burning building to help
I
somebody.
know,
That
I
take
know.
that takes a bit of cojones right there.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so I'm not saying I'm saying that the police officers and the ambulance attendants, every
Yeah,
day they're dealing with garbage and
that's
hurt
tough.
people and death and destruction and drunk
Yeah.
driving and shootings and you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh, I know what you're
every
saying. I get lightheaded
day.
when I get a splinter. You know what I mean? I can't imagine people being able to actually walk into a situation that you know is going to be dark and dreary, and just know you have to be on point because you're there to save lives, perhaps. And
Yes.
hats off to them. They're
Yeah.
heroes. I'm just a podcaster.
Yeah, there we go.
I take that back. Everything I said there, I take.
Yeah.
You've shown me the light, so to speak.
Yeah, those are the
You're not here.
heroes. Okay, those are the
Yeah.
heroes. But what you're saying though, I agree totally with your sentiment because like people, there's nothing wrong with stepping into your subject matter expertise, you know, and if you know what you're talking about in a field. And you don't need to have millions or thousands of views to give a little bit of value, give a little bit of back to the industry, give a little bit back to humanity of your knowledge and as a gift, in a way where you're humble, you're learning, but you're discussing and you're speaking authentically from your heart and you can speak to this topic. If people would do that more, like you said, our society would become more knowledgeable, more competent, more successful, more confident. People would feel good. Okay, there are other people that are thinking what I'm thinking. This is
Knowledge, knowledge
yeah,
is power.
yes,
It's, and all we're doing is hopefully empowering people to, make better decisions. Hopefully, we're helping people out. At the very least, we're informing, like you said. And I think that's a noble thing to do, is to educate, whether it's about lighting, regardless about what the topic is. To educate, I think, is why I think I have the utmost respect for teachers for the same thing. they're
yeah,
they're
sure.
taking the future of our country, and they're teaching kids that one day will be our prime ministers, or our finance ministers. Who knows what they'll be, but they're empowering those kids to, learn, and with that they can conquer the world. And that's, I think that's pretty important.
Most people that know everybody knows a teacher. Everybody talks to a teacher. Is a very common profession. Okay, there's lots of
Hmm.
teachers. It's like there's lots of kids, there's lots of students, there's lots of teachers. There are kids in a hockey team. One of the people is going to be a teacher every time, if not three, four. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There's always going to be a teacher there. So you talk to them, whatever. People should really step back for a second. And if you have a close enough relationship with a teacher, that that's a good Canadian person. Like, his kids on the same hockey team. You're standing at the rink every day, 5 days a week, 2 days a week, whatever. And you're there and you're having a coffee and you can have a comment. Hey, how's it going? Leafs this, Argos that. Ask them a little bit about what they go through every day in school. Okay?
Hmm.
Just get them to tell you about all these special education plans. They got 8 kids in the class that they have to teach differently. They got 30 kids,
Hmm.
5 Afghan immigrants, that don't
Hmm.
speak any English.
Hmm.
Right? And like, dude, there's so much pressure on teachers from because that's just there, and there's so much need, and nobody's speaking. I don't hear anybody ever speak on behalf of the teachers. Nobody really knows what it's like in in a classroom of an elementary school in 2024 with all the different in Toronto. Holy mackerel! That is like a public school grade 4 class, Toronto. You're gonna have a real mix of different people in that class, dude.
Hmm. And the ratio of students to teachers, I know now, has gone to a point where I don't know, 30 to 30 plus kids per teacher. It's I don't even know how they memorize the names. Never mind teaching them.
But this is what I said to
That's
the guy. He tells me I got 8 IEPs or PI.
unbelievable.
He's got 8 PIPs or special. I said, you know what, man? I said, you know what? If after 60 days I knew every kid's name in the class, I would be feeling pretty good about myself, buddy.
You're not educating them. You just got their names down.
Yeah. Like if I actually remembered every kid's name in the class. Are you kidding me? Never mind, this
You
kid's
sound
got to
like me.
learn this way. This one can't take the test without his headphones on. This guy's allowed to do this. This one's over here. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't or shouldn't do that. I don't know anything about education. Okay?
Mhm.
If that's what they need, they need it. These people, and if you're going to do that, you need to have the right amount of resources in the class to realistically manage a logistics operation like that.
Mhm.
With people,
Agreed.
cats, herding cats, little kids going crazy. This guy's allowed to wear his headphones during the exam, but you can't.
Yeah,
What?
it is a thankless job, and
Oh, man.
knock on wood, there's more and more people that are becoming teachers every day, and thank God for that, because it's difficult. Like you're saying, it is difficult, and it's no longer knowing what the topic is. It's knowing how to people manage and how to educate. They have to wear a lot of hats, and it is hats off to every teacher out there, and ambulance driver, and fire
So
person, and
I'll
police
give you another
officer.
anecdote. Okay. This, I was same teacher. I was talking to, he's telling me about the IEPs. Okay. And, oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. It's such a good anecdote too.
That's
Oh
you never make
man,
a
right in the
teacher.
middle of the
You
podcast.
never make a teacher.
Oh no, this is what it was. I got it now.
Okay.
So
See, there you go.
he comes to me. I'm a practicing Catholic, right?
Mhm, mhm.
He knows that about me. Not that much. Like I don't think it's a big deal, but maybe he does, right? So he comes to me and we're talking. He's like, you know what? The other day happened. So what's that? He says the kid says, Jesus Christ in the class. So I said to him, he said to the kid, listen, we don't speak badly about any religion. You understand what I mean?
No,
We don't do that. Everybody, no, we don't speak
he didn't
badly about
he
any
didn't say
religion.
that.
Okay,
That's a
so
name.
but so then he got in trouble with the principal. The kid went home and told his parents, and the parents came to the principal, and the principal came to him and said, "Oh, you're in trouble with the parents because you told them that he can't say God damn or Jesus Christ or something like that, right?" And he's like, "Look, I got a list a mile long here of all the things nobody can say in this class. And it's a
That's
lot
wonderful.
easier. It's a lot easier if nobody curses or says anything bad about anyone else. That's going to be the rule in my class." And I said, I like that
Wow.
rule. I don't really care if the kid says God damn or Jesus Christ. It doesn't bother me at all. Like from a Christian
And
perspective.
in what manner? In what manner did he say Jesus
Oh,
Christ?
he
That's
was
what I
being
ask.
rude. Yeah, he was
Oh,
upset.
okay.
He was cursing.
That's
He was
different story.
cursing.
I thought he
Right? He was cursing.
was okay. I
So
thought it was just mentioning him
no.
or her.
No. He was using it as a curse.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that's
Right?
frowned upon.
Yeah. So he says, I'm just telling all the kids in my class that nobody's allowed to say anything bad about anybody. I thought that's a great idea, actually. I like that way. That sounds like a lot of a better, simpler system to me, doesn't it?
Mhm, mhm. Considering all the things that these kids could be saying, it'd be nice. It's nice that they're trying to steer them away from saying anything negative, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
Why
a
don't
really
we?
good thing, right?
Yeah. When people get upset about all these details and all this sort of stuff, they're way deep in the weeds. What this guy's
Mhm,
trying to do is he's just trying to say, look, let's be polite with one another. That's actually
mhm.
a really simple rule.
Anybody, to be frank with you, anybody that is working a profession, whether it's teacher or anything, that isn't phoning it in, I hats off to them.
Yeah.
So
Amen,
him,
brother. Yeah.
yeah, him or her, whoever the teacher was, that actually gets involved, that wants to better people, that isn't just collecting their paycheck. I think they're great. So
I think I would
you're,
probably
I agree
listen
with you.
to.
Hats off.
I might listen to an episode or two of the What It's Like to Be a Teacher podcast. Like just teachers
I
talking
don't.
to each other.
In
Oh,
all
what?
honesty, I'll be honest with you. You're gonna scare people. I think. I can only imagine. I can only imagine the war stories they'd start spitting out, and be like,
Oh
because I
man.
know, speaking from experience, I love my son, but I don't know if it's coincidence or not. But every year after he leaves a class, that teacher retires. So I don't know if that's coincidence or what. But like 3 in a row now that the teacher's decided, you know what, time to call it a career. So,
My son, you want to hear a story about teachers?
oh
Okay, my son drove his dirt bike through the main hall of Stouffville District Secondary School. Okay,
God.
it got 3 million views on Instagram in 24 hours.
Oh, no.
Okay, it
Oh
turned him
my
into a.
god.
This is
My
during the
kind of kid.
pandemic. This is in the middle of
My
the
kind of kid
pandemic.
right there.
In the middle of the pandemic, he set it up. He had his
Did you
two
get him a
buddies.
better dirt bike after? Because that's he
Okay,
deserves it. Come on now.
okay. So anyway, this was the event of the decade at that school. That was the big event that everyone will remember that somebody did.
That's
Okay.
that's pretty awesome if you
Yeah.
ask me.
Yeah. I was like, part of me was like, oh man, the principal calls me and I go in and I'm sitting down. I sit down in the room there and I'm like, what's going to happen here? And she's like,
Oh,
we're not going to call the police. I thought, okay, good. That's good.
oh, that's the starting. That's
Yeah.
that's
We're
the,
not going to call
oh
the police.
no,
And I said, after
oh
that,
no.
the, after that, he's just paying for legend. You know what I mean? You're going to be
Yeah,
suspended for a couple weeks. I'm not going to encourage it. You know what I'm saying? But he got suspended for a couple weeks, and the police weren't called. He got off the hook. You know what I'm saying? Because it
I'm a
could have been
different
a lot
parent than you,
worse.
my friend. I'll be honest with you. My son does that. I'm pulling him to the side and telling him, we gotta hang out more. I want to be more like you.
That's how I felt.
Because it's
But you
pretty
wouldn't
awesome.
believe it, dude. And even now, like there's a guy in Stouffville that repairs my small engines, and his
Mhm.
son like looks up to JP. He's like,
Of
that's the
course,
that's the kid that drove his dirt bike through the
I
school
look up to
when
him.
when
I'm
I was
45. I look up to him. You kidding? I remember
Oh man.
once, if we're talking about this, I don't know, much to the chagrin of my parents, but I got suspended in grade one because you recall as a kid you used to have to leave your winter boots in the hallway. You couldn't bring it into the classroom.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. You line them
You
up
remember that?
outside. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought, what would be great is if I went to the washroom and I filled up every boot of a class with water from the fountain. So so this I didn't think this through. I'll be honest. I did not think this through. So I filled up every boot, and then when recess was about to be called, I asked to go to the washroom again so I could watch the mayhem ensue. Let's just say it was pretty incriminating when there's one kid watching all these kids put their wet boots on. So they busted me pretty quick. Yeah,
Oh
lesson learned,
man.
I guess.
Grade
So
one?
that's why I'm a big fan of your kid. That's my kind of kid right there.
You
Yeah,
know
you make
though,
mistakes. You live and learn, right?
you know what? The edge is out there. And you
Mhm.
don't know when you go over until you go over.
But it's the fact that you try.
Yeah.
It's going out there and giving it a whirl. It's you might call it misbehaving, but I call it giving it a whirl. You know what I mean? It's you either stay between the lines and live with regret, or you veer outside the lines once in a while and know that you lived it to the fullest. You know what I mean? So hats off to your kid. Hats off to this guy for wetting some boots in kindergarten.
Yeah,
Hats off to
sure.
everybody that's taking a chance. Right?
Planning an event? Plan on extending its reach by visiting getagripstudios.com and learning more about live streaming from the site.
You know what? The other thing too is though, just on that, this is where I'd love to listen to teachers just like have heart to
Mhm,
heart discussions like we're having right now and put it on the internet, just so you could hear
mhm.
what they actually think. You always hear about teachers, you never hear from teachers. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
I'll be
always like,
honest. It's true. Yeah.
you know, and so if there was like a teacher podcast, like, what do you think of the curriculum? You know,
Mhm.
because they have to teach the curriculum. You understand what I mean? They don't have a choice.
Of course, of course. You realize your podcast, they'd have to be masked. You know that, right?
No, why? Is there like a mafia of teachers that take out other
Well,
teachers?
because they'd want to tell the truth, but I'm sure it would be frowned upon from teacher to teacher point of view if you traded war stories and you know what I mean. You're
I
gonna
think
have
it would
to.
be frowned upon as much as get a grip on lighting is. You know how many dark curtains I've raised on the lighting industry, buddy?
Okay, fair enough, fair enough,
You know what I
fair
mean?
enough.
And
I,
we
I,
let
I
some
just I was just
fresh
thinking
air in. We
teachers
let a
might be
little
a
bit
little
of fresh
discouraged.
air in here. Let's cut the bullshit. Okay, buddy? Let's
Yeah,
cut the bullshit.
that's you know what?
10-year
We need to do that with more
warranties.
stuff. Yeah, we
10-year
need to do that with more
warranties.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love 10-year warranties.
Yeah,
When they
10-year
don't come through
warranties.
on their warranty, I get to go there and pick up the pieces. Works out perfect from my point of view.
Yeah. This is all nonsense. So yeah, I mean, I think back to your original sentiment when I asked you at least one question about a podcast on the Let's Start a Podcast. I think I asked you one question about podcasting, but we went,
We
going back to that, the sentiment, if you're like one of those people that has something to say but you also have something to learn and you want to learn and you want to speak and you want to challenge your ideas against other people in the arena of public discourse from
mhm,
subject matter expertise perspective, then podcasting is for you. That's what I would say. For Jason Schembris of the world, the Michael Colligans, it's like a release valve. You feel like you want to,
mhm,
you have something to give. You have no platform. You know what I'm saying? And
mhm.
podcasting can be that platform for people.
In all honesty, I relate it to after a long week at work, you go to the bar and have a couple of pints with your coworkers and
Yeah.
trade war stories. It's the same thing, except it's less fun, right? Because there's minimal alcohol and it's censored. But other than that, it's
Yeah.
the same premise. We're able to vent, and you can trade war stories, and you can just, you know, undo a couple of buttons, and yeah, I think it's at the very least it'll take some weight off of people's chests too. So.
Well, you know what? That's a great way to put it too. But here's what I'm gonna just like. I'm just gonna add one element to that. What you said there. It's
Mhm.
well, you're a big talker, eh, buddy? Big shooter.
Uh,
Let's
I
put it
think
on
we're
the
both getting
internet.
it
Let's put it
done.
on the internet, big talker. You understand what I
Yeah.
mean? If
No,
you're
I get
such a
that. I
big
get what you're
talker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's record
Let's
it.
record it.
Yeah.
That's
You
true.
know? So it's like you
Yeah.
could I think you may think, it actually in some ways it can be beautiful, in some ways it can be combative. You have to be
Hmm.
respectful and
Own it.
yeah.
You got to own it. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Anybody could practice. Anybody could preach, but it's practicing what you preach and like you said, record it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you believe in something, record it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. If you
Yeah.
don't, if you're talking out of your rear, then you might not want to record it. But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like I'm not gonna listen to this. You're not coming on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast and blowing smoke up my ass, buddy. You understand what I'm saying?
At least not after, not till a couple of drinks or something. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, no, if drinks, I've had. Listen, I started the podcast hammered. Like Get a Grip on Lighting. I was so nervous, not hammered, but I had a good 2-3
Yeah,
beers before I
yeah.
went in
There's
there.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I've been a first couple of sales meetings in front of a board of directors or AGM. I've when I was a young one, I
Liquid
had to take the
lunch.
edge off too. You got
Liquid
it.
lunch.
And then all of a sudden, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you forget what you're talking about, and you end up half naked and wonder what happened. So, just me? Was that just me?
The best is when, like, in those kind of environments when someone gets pushed in the pool or something. That's the best.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's no coming back from this. Yeah, we've crossed the proverbial line now,
Yeah,
folks.
I remember I was at a Nailed convention, and this one ex-president of Nailed was really pissed off at the current president. And we were
Hmm.
at the garden party or whatever. Everyone's standing there having drinks, and she came over and pushed him in the pool.
Oh no!
He had his phone on him. His wife was there. It was like the weirdest, most amazingly awkward
And what do you
situation.
say? Like, if you're there, what do you do? You just I guess you just take a step back and walk away. I guess at that point, what do you do?
And I was at another one where this one vendor hated this other vendor at a nailed event. They hated each other. And some people shouldn't drink, Jason.
Agreed there.
Some
Agreed there.
some people shouldn't drink. And I have some friends, where I got to say to them, look, no whiskey shots, buddy.
I have
You
a
know what
couple
I
of
mean?
buddies like that. You have to give them a pep talk prior to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I got a couple
Okay,
of buddies
listen.
like that. Hey, no
If
tequila tonight, eh?
if I see you with shots of whiskey at the bar, I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Or you're leaving.
You're on your own, buddy. I have friends
Yeah.
like that. I got to
Oh,
tell him.
I hear you.
But anyway, so the one vendor, they started arguing across the table, and the one vendor picks up his bottle of Heineken and doesn't throw the bottle at him, but whips it like this, so all the beer like goes right onto the other guy. And I step
Classy.
back, and I'm like, "This is a throwdown. That's a throwdown, dude. No,
Yeah, that is definitely crossing the line. I'll tell you that much.
that's a throwdown. Like if somebody did that to me, I don't know, man. We're
I don't know.
probably
It's
like the
big
chances
Heineken
of
guy.
we're throwing down right now is really high.
Well, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. Somebody does that, they must be. I think somebody just doesn't has perhaps they haven't been hugged enough. I think
Yeah.
they have they have anger issues. So usually it's like with anything. The guy that talks the most and puffs out the chest, his or her chest the most is usually the weakest. So
Who's not
I would.
recording it?
Who's not recording? Yeah, who's not recording it? Right? Guys like us that record it, we own it. They're
That's
definitely
right.
not weak.
Put
Right?
it out
Like I
there.
said, it's usually the big talkers that have minimal, vigor behind them. They just hope that they can bluff their way to winning something. So I wouldn't have engaged that guy anyways. I would have just laughed and
I
taken
wasn't
power from him.
involved. I just stepped back from it, and I was like, "What's going to happen here?" The
What
other guy
happened?
walked away. The other guy walked away. The guy that
Oh,
got the beer on him, he walked away. And I felt like that.
oh.
I
Was
felt
that
like
a
that.
was the other guy?
But you know
That's
what? I
disappointing.
felt like that was the right move because I thought about it. I said, okay, what happens? Call again. You're standing there. You're having a dialogue with somebody. It's getting heated. It's getting
Mhm.
heated. I don't know what they were saying, but you could see it was getting heated.
But it's a conversation. Jeez,
Yeah.
Louise. It's like somebody that
And
takes a joke personally.
the other guy
Come on.
goes and throws beer on you or throws food on you. What do? I said, you know what? The best thing to do is get out of the situation. Walk away. But I don't know if I could. That's what I'm saying.
20-year-old Jason. I think he fights to the death.
20-year-old
45-year-old Jason.
Michael is flipping the
40
table over, and I don't care who
45
this guy is.
45-year-old Jason with 2 kids and a mortgage.
Yeah.
I laugh at you and walk away. So I
Yeah.
can see where that guy's coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what are you going to get out of it? Let's
What
say
are you
you
going to get?
crack him, you put
Yeah.
him to sleep, and he hits his head on the way down. You're going to get sued anyway. There's a lot of
Yeah.
ways. It's not going to turn out well for you. So it's probably better. That guy probably deserves a drink because he walked away and de-escalated the situation.
That's
So
what I thought. I
that's
thought
tough
he
for
was the
that guy,
bigger
man.
man. I thought he won.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
but
Agreed.
I'm torn about it a little bit. You know what I mean?
The other guy looks pretty petty and immature. So you know what? I think you're right. I think that guy won. Because
Yeah.
the guy that threw the drink, he looks like a putz. So
Yeah. What are you
I don't know.
doing, dude? This
I
is a
think you're right.
professional event. Act like a fucking
Like,
professional.
yeah. Do you know who you are?
What are you doing, dude? You know? But still, it was exciting. I love these exciting, awkward, tense moments, especially when I'm close to them, but I'm not involved.
Yeah, when you're
I
front row seats is the
Yeah,
best.
I love it. Oh man, I love it. I saw these two huge brothers get into at a Home Depot parking lot. I thought this is gonna be great.
Where are you hanging out? Like, have
Home
you noticed that
Depot.
you are the? Have you noticed that you're the common denominator with all these situations? You've been at all of them. Maybe you have something to do with it. I don't know.
I think most people take off at the first sign of trouble. Okay,
I don't
that's
know.
what I
You see
think.
a lot. You find yourself in a lot of these predicaments. I don't know.
You know what? I would say that I was probably involved in the first two incidents
There you go.
that I
See,
told you. Like I was,
I knew you were the common denominator there. That makes
yeah,
sense now.
I was probably
That's just
involved in those incidents in terms of getting people fired up about a
oh,
certain
there you
issue,
go.
right?
I believe the term is
Or
poking the fire or poking the bear.
yeah, but like I wasn't intentionally trying to I was just agreeing with what they were saying
Yeah,
and
yeah. You're
listening to
not thinking
them.
it's gonna get to that point, right?
Yeah, I wasn't actually, telling her to push him in the pool, like,
With the cell phone in his pocket.
yeah, and his
Oh, that's
wife standing
hilarious.
there, like, whoa,
She's flabbergasted. Like, why do you take me to these events?
it's crazy, but it's legendary. It's also
Yeah,
legendary.
it's ridiculous. All my lighting debaucheries come from like light fair in Vegas, but we can't talk about that here.
Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah,
So technically, What have you learned as a podcaster? What have you learned?
Uh, if you don't voice your opinion, if you are reserved in what you're saying, get ready to put people to sleep. Nobody
Mm,
wants to, if you're gonna voice your opinion and talk about something, just do it. Don't overthink. Just speak from your heart, speak from experience, and don't hold it back, or else people aren't tuning in to watch the something that's not interesting or something that's reserved. What's the point?
mm.
They'll tune into TVO and watch something that'll put them to sleep.
Yeah,
You
sure.
want to watch a podcast that's going to entertain and educate. So I think that's one of the things I would think about when if I'm looking to start a podcast.
Take it to the edge within your subject matter expertise, wherever
Of
you think
course,
that
of
edge
course.
is.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But within the area of the least amount of risk for you, right?
Yes, you
So
have to
you're
walk a
doing
fine
this
line, but walk
in the area that's not risky for you to screw up because you know a lot about lighting and electrical contract.
exactly, exactly, and don't branch off into something you don't know a lot about, and then start spewing misinformation. So you're definitely right. You got to stick to your wheelhouse, and if you're going to deviate, do it in a controlled fashion. So
Yes, exactly. If you're going to deviate, be take your the humility. Have you become more humble? That's a good question, actually. Or like, how was the ego ride? And there's a little bit of ego in this. Let's face it. How was the ego ride?
I've always been pretty humble. You know what I mean? I don't know. Take a look at that beak. Take a look at that hairline. I'm not gonna, you know. But I like to make fun of myself. I don't take myself too seriously. I still put asses in the seats, but I don't take myself too seriously. And yeah, I would never worry about that. I'm pretty humble by nature and just
Mm,
by upbringing, right? So
mm.
not a worry for me.
What about the when you're working with the studio here, Scott, and I don't know if you work with Scott Wachter as well, the other Scott here, the other people here. How's that experience been for you? Has it been easy? Did they make it easy for you?
Very easy, very accommodating, and easy to get along with, right? So eh, it's you're trying to be professional, but you want to still be easy to work with, right? So
Mm.
I think you got quite the team there, and it's been pretty easy in all honesty. It's really just have a conversation, but put it on video and have headgear on. Other than that, there's no difference. It's just talking,
Yeah, yeah. You don't, and
no
I would
overthinking.
suspect that you don't over prepare. You just come in hot and sit down and do the Jason Schembri thing.
Emphasis on the hot. That is
Yeah.
correct. That wasn't even a joke. I was being sincere. What the hell?
It's
But
hilarious.
yeah, it's just conversing. It's like you and I. If I call you after we get off of this, it's going to be the same thing.
Sure. Yeah,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
That's just how it is. If you have rapport and you can carry a conversation, then you could do a podcast.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and the other thing too is with the in the it's a different it's different than the live environment. So I've done some live streaming. Live streaming is another level of stress, because you're worried about the going live and getting it right, and then sometimes you're sitting there and you're live and they don't know, so there's a little bit of tension with it. And then there's no one doing it; it's done, right? So
I'm of the old school where you just talk. Maybe you
yeah,
just
maybe,
overanalyze and you're a bit of a
maybe,
perfectionist, right? I know you're a perfectionist, so perhaps that's what it is, right?
maybe. Maybe I like the idea of challenging dialogue. Like I treat it sometimes like a knife fight, and other times like
Good lord.
a rapport building session. It depends on the angle that I want to take. And so
Hmm.
I release a lot of energy, like positive energy and emotions
Hmm.
in this field where I'd love to challenge myself in conversation with another smart guy. I like that.
Hmm. 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 And you know what? In all honesty, it's all opinion, right? You know the saying, opinions are like I won't go.
E-
You know the saying.
Everyone has one, and you
It's
shouldn't show it to very many people.
yeah. My parents used to tell me that all the time. But you know what? It's just opinions, and you can have different opinions, and you can
Mm,
voice your opinion. But everybody's got opinions, and as long as you don't take things personally, you don't push people into pools. I don't think
yeah,
it should be an issue. We're just conversing, and you have your thoughts, I have my thoughts.
yeah. And when you're willing to share those, in a certain area of your expertise, you can build a meaningful following. Like I remember
Mhm.
I was really, I don't know, I really felt good when I saw the Contractor Distributor Show 4 episodes in the top 10 last year.
Mhm.
Like, I was worried you guys were gonna get number 1 because he really
Worried.
yeah, because you can't beat
Where's
me.
the high fives, man?
Well, no, I'm
No.
number 1.
We're
I
all
gotta be
pulling the
number
wagon
1.
up the hill together, brother.
There's
We're
the
all pulling the
yeah,
wagon
I'm
together.
competitive, right? I was getting worried. I'm like, "Holy mackerel." So what you guys have been doing has had an impact, you know? I'm joking about that, by the way. I would love it if you
I'm
guys
joking. I know
yeah, yeah,
you are.
totally. I would be so happy for you guys. But there's still the competitive spirit, right?
Oh, of
You know,
course, of course.
you know what I mean? So, but yeah, you guys have had an impact, and
It's good to hear.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for being a guest on the Let's Get This
Yeah,
Podcast Started.
this has been a slice, my friend. I've
Yeah,
enjoyed this. You know what? And I hope that people that watch us enjoyed it. Our stories about your son and what
sure.
I did and my son's track record with teachers. I think hopefully it entertains and educates.
Amen. Thanks for listening. If you're listening, bye for now. Let's Get This Podcast Started is a production of Get a Grip Studios. Do you want to start a podcast? Do you need help with your existing podcast? Do you want to record some conversations or a presentation? Do you want to be a guest on Let's Get This Podcast Started? Go to getagripstudios.com.